Today we're going to be talking about the 5-step design process. It's something that graphic designers use day in and day out, and something that you guys will definitely become familiar with over the course of this year. Step number 1 is when you collect all of the necessary information that you're going to need to complete the project. So the example that we'll use to talk about these 5 steps is, say that you're asked to design a cover for a popular fashion magazine. So before you start freaking out about the huge task set in front of you to make the world's most awesome cover for this magazine, you should just slow down and remember that design is a total process, and we're going to start at the basics. Step number 1. The very first thing that you're going to want to do under step number 1 is study the project brief. So a project brief is given to you by either your teacher, in this case, or your prospective client. The project brief is just that. It's a brief description of the project that tells you all about when your deadline is, the requirements of the project. Also, under this first step, it's a really good idea to study what's out there. So get a good feel for what designers are popular and what's really trendy right now. Designers have to be really trendy and keep up with the trends in order to break trends and make their own original work. On that same note, designers should research background information. So that could be stuff like color palettes and textiles that are popular. Step number 2 is the brainstorm process. So at this point, you're finding inspiration for your work. During this step, you want to make sure that you take the necessary time to find inspiration for your project. The worst thing is just jumping right into a project and not having a cool idea behind it. So during this stage, write down all of the thoughts that you have around the project and find inspiration in a variety of different sources. Step number 3 is when your design really starts to take shape and come together. So here you're taking all of the pieces that you've researched in order to come up with a cohesive idea. So it might seem like we've waited a while for the whole design stage, but the design step comes at step number 4. Now is when your design starts to take a more articulate form, in the form of thumbnail sketches, rough drafts, and comprehensive versions of your final idea. During this stage, you're constantly fitting together all of the pieces in the form of sketches and rough drafts and revising your work. Step number 5 is when you implement your design and eventually it becomes finalized. Now is when craftsmanship or the neatness of your final project becomes essential. Your work at this stage should be neat, clean, accurate, and functional if possible. And to recap, here's a quick review of those 5 steps. So step number 1 is when you collect all of your necessary information. You're trying to figure out what exactly you're trying to convey with your idea. So during step number 1, you would review the written project brief, you would study existing designs or designers, and you would research background information. Step number 2 is when you're officially brainstorming and searching for inspiration. So here you want to make sure that you take time to find inspiration for your project by doing things like writing down all of your thoughts about the project and finding inspiration in a variety of sources. Step number 3 is the conception stage, where your ideas really start to take form. So it's not simply enough to arrange all of these different graphic pieces into a pleasing design. During this stage, you're constantly analyzing, interpreting, and reflecting on your work. Step number 4 is the design stage, a stage that a lot of amateurs and designers who just start out kind of rush right into, but you can see why, after knowing all of the stages, why we take it slow. So here your design starts to take shape in the form of different thumbnail sketches, rough drafts, and eventually comprehensive sketches. The 5th stage is the implementation stage. So here, craftsmanship is key. You're cleaning up all of those loose ends. So your well-crafted work enhances good design concepts. Your work should be neat, clean, accurate, and functional at this final stage. Soon you guys will start to see how this 5-step design process will take action in every project that we do this year.